Hello, and welcome to the second video on the devlog series about me rebuilding my game FlashTap from scratch. In the last video, I finished the start screen, I got the FlashTap title on the top, and my company Cyberjam Studios label on the bottom. And if you press the one player button, it brings you to the screen where the one player game will be held. So in this video, I'm going to be building the actual game mechanics to make it all work. The first thing I'm going to do is make a timer up here that says 3, 2, 1, go. And once that happens, the game will actually start. Then the squares are going to start flashing randomly and random times. And depending which square they use the tabs, the score label will adjust up here. Alright, so let me get to work. Alright, so what I got so far is when I press the one player button, it brings me here, and then we see the timer starts going down, and now is when the game's actually going to start. So now the squares are going to start flashing. And looking over the code, what I've done here is that I made a delegate called game delegate. There's a function countdown to n, and I made a game class. So what happens when the view of the one player view controller loads, it will start the game countdown. It comes here and updates the label to 3, 2, 1, and then go. And once that happens, the delegate calls the countdown did end method, and here is where I'm going to start the logic to make the square start flashing. Alright, and next I need to make another timer, which is going to be the length of the game. So the squares aren't going to be flashing until that second timer is finished. Once that timer is finished, the next screen is going to come up. Alright, so something I added right here is that when you press the one player button, this label comes up here, which is going to be the timer label. And this is going to tell you how much seconds are left in this game. It wasn't in the first version of the game, but I think it's a good addition for the next version. Alright, so what I got here is that when I press the one player button, we get the countdown, 3, 2, 1, go, and the game starts, and now the left square starts flashing. So now what I need to do, I need to make it so that it will randomly switch to the right square at a random time the flashing is going to start at the right square and the left square is going to stay solid, and then at another random time the right square is going to stay solid and then the left square is going to start flashing again. Alright, so this seems to work out so far. I have it that just to test it out, every 2 seconds it switches to the next square, and after 2 seconds switch back to the other square. And when it switches, it stops the flashing so it stays on a solid color and the other square starts to flash. So now that I have it to be able to switch between squares, I need to make sure that it switches at random times, so that one time it could be 1 second or another time it could be half a second. That's going to make the game a lot more interesting. So let me see how I can do that. Alright, so I finally got it to switch squares randomly. So when I press the 1 player button, the countdown begins over here and the squares begin flashing. So I have it set up so far that it switches squares anywhere between 0 to 2.5 seconds. So that means the maximum time a square can be flashing on its own is 2.5 seconds. So the final thing I need to do for this screen is to make the squares interactive. So when the user is tapping on one square, if it's flashing, then I want to increase the score right here. But if it's tapping on the square that is not flashing, I want it to decrease the score right here. So that seems simple enough, it shouldn't take too long to build that. So taking a look on how the code works, once I get into here, the play game method, I select randomly a square, so it could be a left square or the right square that starts out. I then create a flash timer, and what this timer is that it's going to take the current square selected and then basically switch colors. Switch from flash to solid and then solid to flash. And lastly, I have another timer called switch square timer. And this is the timer that will randomly switch between the left square and the right square. So we see here we're getting a random time between 0 and 2.5 seconds. It comes out of this function to actually switch the square, and then we create a new timer from 0 to 2.5 seconds again. And it's going to be a constant loop until the game is over. Alright, so for each square I added a tap gesture, and whenever somebody presses a square, it either calls the left square pressed or the right square pressed. And basically what it does is that it checks if that square is a current square, If it is, it adds to the score. If not, it subtracts from the score, and then it just updates the score label. So playing the game, tap on the one player, get 3, 2, 1, and go. Notice if I tap on the square that's not flashing, I get a negative number, and when I do tap on the square that's flashing, my number goes up. It gets pretty difficult, especially when it switches suddenly, so it looks like I got a score of 29. On the next video, I'm going to make a screen that shows you the current score and also your highest score. You can restart the game again, and also there's going to be a menu where you can switch the colors of the two squares. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you guys think this is cool or if you have any more video ideas that I can do. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you guys want to see more iPhone tutorials and development logs. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.